Welcome back to Who Cares Anyway? Podcast where I give you my sports opinions, and if you agree with me, cool. If you don't, cool. At the end of the day, who cares anyway? Um, this week's episode is one that I kind of had brewing for a couple weeks due to a hand injury. Pushed it back a little bit, um, and wanted to start to pivot into basketball since playoffs are kind of ramping up, and figure what better way to do that with I guess a better way would be with the actual playoffs themselves. But uh why not start with something a little more centralized and talk about somebody that has a little bit of a link to this year's playoffs. Not direct, maybe directly. I guess it depends on how you look at it. But LeBron James Jr., also known as Bronny James, just finished up his freshman year at USC a couple months ago. Uh, the discourse surrounding him and his options during this offseason has been, will he stay in college another year, stay at USC, transfer, whatever the case on that front, or will he enter into the draft and play end up playing with his dad for what might be LeBron's last year, and see where that goes and where that takes him. Um, I'm glad that I waited to do this episode because about a week ago, I think, Bronny announced that he was entering both the transfer portal and into the draft, and that he'll be keeping his eligibility in college. So that tells me that this entering his name into the draft pool is just going to be a feeling out, kind of to see what teams are at all interested, if any, um, and to see what the prospects are, and also to probably see if LeBron can pull any kind of strings to get them on a team together and see how that works. But the transfer portal is more interesting to me because him entering himself into the transfer portal tells me that USC is not the place for him. Going back to USC, he's not going to be able to succeed the way he wants to and the way he knows he can. Um, he a change he feels a change of scenery might be good for him and allow him to really take off as a player. Uh, that being said, the 2023 season, his freshman season with USC, it wasn't anywhere near exceptional. Uh, it was a little mid. A lot of people figured that he'd be a little closer to LeBron, or felt that he'd be a little closer to Bron. Um, he wasn't at all. He was nowhere near what LeBron's even senior year high school stats were. But different era. He also missed the first 8 games of the season due to cardiac arrest, due to recovery from cardiac arrest, due to a congenital heart defect. Um, and I don't know the full severity of it. I've seen reports saying that it was minor and that he was awake on the way to the hospital. I've also seen it just be plainly stated as cardiac arrest. Either way, I think downplaying cardiac arrest is a little iffy to me because cardiac arrest is a leading cause of death, especially in uh, athletes his age at 18. It's not the first time I would have seen or heard of an athlete losing their life to cardiac arrest during a practice setting. Um, so that definitely had an effect and impact on his play during his freshman year. So in the 25 games that he did play, he averaged about 5 points a game, a little under 5 points a game, um, on 36% from the field and 26 from three. Not great shooting splits. Definitely could be better. Um, he also averaged a little over 2 assists a game and a little under 3 rebounds a game, 2.8 in about 19 minutes a game. So he's not. It's not like he's hurting for playing time. He's getting decent minutes. Um, but I think it's just he's trying to get back into full swing while also trying to mesh well with his teammates. Uh, because he does have the, I think, fourth highest. Let me see. Yeah, he's got the third highest assist percentage on the team. So he is, able to mesh and play make well through with the team. But it's just a matter of being able to put that together on a consistent basis and allowing him to have the ball in his hands consistently. That's why his stats look kind of weird for what what was seen from him throughout high school. Granted, competition got better. You're playing in what I think is well, at this point, what used to be a premier conference in basketball in the Pac-12. But as opposed to playing kind of not terrible competition in high school, but not best of the best at all times. Um, but I think that he has the ability to definitely play above these numbers. Um, and he has 2 games where he got decent volume in terms of shots. He shot 10 plus shots in those two games, and within those 2 games, he shot a combined 50% from the floor and 29 from three. Again, not a great 3-point shooter. Uh, I'll get into that a little bit later. Uh, but on that 50% from the field, that's 13 points a game, and then 4.5 assists a game and 3 rebounds. So when he's able to, and a small sample size, I know it's not like it's only 2 games. It'd be different if it was like 10 out of his 25 games where he had this many shots, he was able to do these put up these kind of numbers. Then you'd be like, okay, I can see what you're saying. But that these 2 games are still important because it does show that when he is given the workload or given the opportunity to have that volume, that he can produce with that volume. Um, and if it's a matter of whether or not that volume comes while he's on the bench, coming off the bench, as like a 6 man kind of role or a rotational piece that can just kind of get hot, or if he's a starter and is contributing and is able to contribute night in, night out with that starting group, run the offense from the tip to, you know, as his rotation goes, but spend a lot of time on the court. Um, is Remains to be seen. Uh, he only started 6 games as a freshman, which is understandable. You got a USC had Isaiah Collier or Collier, however you pronounce. If you want to be bougie with it or not, whichever way you want to go. Uh, you got a high caliber guard already on that roster, and Bronny James is fits more in that guard role, especially like primary ball handler role, where he's gonna be the one kind of letting like run not offense is flowing through him in terms of his scoring and his shot, but more so in the sense of he's the piece that moves the offense, like kind of like a Draymond Green type. Excuse me. Um, but when he's forced off ball, and at that point, when you're in that off ball role, you're either having people create for you or you have to create for yourself. Whereas in that primary ball handler role, he's able to create for his teammates, and then off of creating for his teammates, he can then get his own, and he does that in the way of uh, going to the basket. He's not a terrible shooter. He can definitely hit that mid range, definitely play that 15 to 20 feet area really well. But like once he gets past that, 23 ish, like behind the like closer to the arc behind it, he starts to his numbers start to drop a little more. Um, like I said, he's shooting under 30% from three on the year, and even in those two games where he played pretty well, but still didn't shoot well from three, shooting under 30% from three in those games as well. Um, if he could limit those numbers, limit those amount of shots, because he's shooting 50 over 50% of his shots from beyond the arc. So if he's gonna keep taking that, that's gonna hurt him because he's not shooting well from there. So you know, if you have it, sure, take it, but don't make it your business to try and shoot from out there or improve it. Either way. Um, but just if he's allowed to kind of find his role in the offense and maybe like a, cause when I watch him play and I watch some clips that will probably be on screen if you're watching, if you're listening, YouTube is your best friend here. Uh, um, but he kind of, when I watch him play, he kind of reminds me of a smaller LeBron. Not as physical, maybe more akin to like a Scotty Barnes. Um, he can definitely, like I said, he can hit the mid range like 15, 20 feet out. Um, but he does a really good job at getting to the basket as well, and has not the best strength. He is a little bit on the slimmer side, but he is strong enough to finish through some contact. Um, he's also, and this is where the comparison to LeBron comes into play, is he's got this like innate ability to facilitate and find passing lanes where most people wouldn't see them. Um, if I remember to do so, there's and I'll have it timed up if I remember correctly. If I remember it, there's a play where he's on the baseline and he's driving. He's got a man right in front of him between him and basket, and he's as he's driving to the baseline, he sees his teammate slip behind another defender, and as he's slipping behind this other defender, that's where the passing lane opens between his defender, the defender that's guarding Bronny, and the defender that is off supposedly supposed to be guarding his teammate. And he drops this nice bounce pass between the two defenders right into his teammate, leading for an easy layup. And it the moment I saw that, it reminded me of the type of plays that we see LeBron make and the type of plays that ESPN loves to show you 45 times. because they can't understate how good of a passer LeBron is. So when I like it's plays like that that remind me that okay, there is a foundation here. You know, there's something to build off of here, and he can really, if he's able to be in a position where he can test his limits and kind of see, okay, I'm really good at doing this, so I'm gonna do this a lot, but also what am I weak in? What do I need to work on and refine, and what do I need to just let go altogether and do sparingly? Um, if he's able to do that, then I think that he can be. A lot of people had him projected as a lottery pick before the before his cardiac arrest. Um, I still don't see him as a lottery pick. I still didn't see him as a lottery pick then, but if he's able to kind of find his niche and find what he does well, which honestly I think is on the defensive side of the ball. I'll talk about that a little bit in a little bit, but I think if he's able to do that, he'll be around like mid first round next year. It's not going to happen this year. If he goes into the draft this year and stays in the draft, he's going to be a early second round pick at best. Maybe a late first round pick. Um, if he stays, which I think he should do, which I think he should do. I said that. I don't know why I repeated. Whatever. If he stays another year in college, albeit not at USC, then and he's able to develop the way that he wants to develop in the way that he knows and reach. I don't want to say his ceiling, but raise his ceiling to what he knows his ceiling is. Then he in the 2025 draft he'll be probably at I don't want to say at worst, and I don't want to say at best either, but on average mid first round. At best, the bottom end of the lottery, but on average middle of the first round. So like 15, 16. Um, and the reason why I say his defense is probably his best asset, and where he's probably gonna see. I don't want to say a lot of his production, but the thing that's gonna allow him to see the court a lot, it's gonna be his defense. He's got per 100 possessions, he's got a 106.8 defensive rating, which means that when he's playing defense over 100 possessions, the team as a whole is giving up 106 points. And it skews differently in college because of the length of the games and the way the games are played. So like you're not going to get as much scoring output. But in the NBA, a 106.8 defensive rating is pretty good. You know, we're in an NBA where 120 points is the norm now. Almost, it feels like 115, 120 points is the norm. And if you have the ability to be the fourth best defensive guy on a roster at the NBA level, then you're going to see a lot of time on the court because that that's going to win you a lot of games. Um, Now, obviously, you want the offense to come along with it, but when I look at the NBA for comparison, and I'm seeing guys who have defensive ratings like Jonathan Isaac. having a defensive rating of 102, um, or uh, a guy like Anthony Davis who's supposedly a really good defender, an elite defender, an impactful defender. He has a defensive rating of 114. Um, Having a defensive rating of 106, all per 100 possessions, by the way, all those numbers I just listed off. Um, Meaning that in those 100 possessions that you're on the court as a primary defender or as a defender, your team is giving up this amount of points. So with Bronny James on the court as a defender in the NBA, where you're going to get to about 100, 150 possessions or so, um, you're only giving up 106 points, which is extremely good considering you got the Celtics that are scoring 115, 120, 130 points a game now, somewhere in there. And to put it into like early 2000s and like 90s numbers, if excuse me, if the average points per game in that time was about 105 ish, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but somewhere around there. And the low end for points per game was like 98, maybe less, maybe a little more, maybe 100 on the dot somewhere. 106.8 is somewhere around that like 98 to 105 range. Probably like where John Isaac is right now in the NBA at 102, maybe 100. Um, Basically what I'm saying is that Bronny's bread and butter is going to be on defense, and he's if he was if he's able to translate this defensive ability into the NBA, he's going to be in that category of elite defenders, especially at the guard position. The problem is that his offensive rating per 100 possessions is a 98.1. So he's not scoring the ball a whole lot. Now, I don't know if that's because of usage, because in the six starts that he had, when I believe Isaiah Collier went down with an injury, I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me on that. But in those six starts, for whatever reason that he had to start, he scored 5.1 points a game, had a little under four assists and a little under four rebounds on a 42% field goal percentage, 22% from three, but his usage rate was a 17.6%, which tells me that he's not seeing a lot of possessions end with him, whether it be from a pass or an assist, a pass or a pass that leads to a shot or his own shot. Um, and something I noticed as I was going through was when he does have higher usage rates in games, he tends to produce better and produce more. So across those six starts, he had a negative 2.03 box plus minus, which essentially means that he's holding his team back by 2 points. Like if he were to not play, his team would have two more points than they do with him playing, essentially. But in games where in games where he's on underneath that 17% usage rate, or when he's on the lower end of his, window of usage rate, which is probably going to be about to like from like 15 to 19 ish on average. But games where he's outside of that window, he tends to struggle. Like those are his worst games in terms of production. But in games where he's on the higher end of that usage rate window where he's around 19 to like 20 and higher, those are his better games. The game against Oregon State comes to mind where he may have only had 9 points, but his 3 for 7 shooting, not a terrible game. They win that game, and he's got a usage rate of 16 with a BPM of 7.6. Now, of course, like obviously his usage rate isn't going to be anything crazy. Yeah, he did start, but that's just not his game right now. Like I think this was earlier in the season. No, this was late season. But for whatever reason, he's not taking a lot of shots. Um, I think in this game he only took, yeah, like I said, 7 shots, which isn't a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. And honestly, that game isn't the one I was thinking of. There was a game earlier than that, early on in the season, where Bronny had a 30 and a half usage rate. And he's got 15 points, 6 for 11 shooting. Still not great from three, only 33% from the field from three, 54% from the field, however, and he's got a box plus minus of 13.3. So I noticed that when he's able to have that higher usage rate, or he's around average usage rate, he he's going to produce more often than not. And I think a lot of what I've seen in terms of what he should do in his college decision uh, has been to find a spot where he can be that primary ball handler, that guy that's gonna like possessions are gonna start and end with him. Maybe kind of like how James Harden was used in, I would say, Philly or Brooklyn. Like I don't think Bronny's gonna be that ISO type of guy. Like he doesn't have that kind of ball handle. Um, he's not. He's. It's not like he can't dribble. It's just that he's not. He doesn't have the moves. He doesn't have that kind of like shiftiness. Um, really reminiscent of LeBron, honestly. Like you're not gonna see LeBron trying to put somebody on skates, hit him with a million crossovers. Like LeBron's gonna maybe one, two, three dribbles and either pull up or bully his way to the basket. Oftentimes there is no dribble, and it still baffles me as to how he makes that shot every time. If you know, you know. But uh, I think Bronny in a position where he's able to actually be the point guard and run the offense and kind of dictate and facilitate the offense, he'll succeed. I think he succeeds there. That's where he played in high school. That's where he had his most success to date. And I think if he's able to play back in that role where he's comfortable, or if he's in a position where he's allowed to kind of learn how to fill the role before him, if it's not that, primary point guard role, that ball hand, that play initiator, offensive uh, conductor role, if it's not that, whatever role he does get put into, if he's able to be in a position where he can learn that role and come to grips with it and be comfortable in it, just like he would in any other role, in his main role, then he's going to obviously succeed. That was a very long-winded way of saying that. Moral of the story is if he's allowed to adapt, if he's in an environment where he can adapt, then he's going to play well. Um, I've seen links to Duquesne as a possible transfer spot, um, partially because a former high school teammate of LeBron is the head coach, just got signed, actually, I think, end of the year, last year, or something like that. Got signed hired as the Duquesne basketball head coach. So there's a link there. Um, it's just you don't know where the offense is yet. You don't know what level his offense is at yet because especially if you're a prospective NBA team, a lot of the time nowadays point guards are the offensive engine. Like they're the position where you're going to get a lot of your points from. You look at Jalen Brunson, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Steph Curry, Trae Young, Damian Lillard, um, Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, guys like that. Like those are elite point guards in this league that are going to put up 25 to 30 a game. I don't know that Bronny's ever going to be able to do that. It's yet to be seen. He's probably going to be more around that like 15, 20, and which is around that D'Angelo Russell kind of like D'Angelo Russell is more like 20 to 25, but thinking like Brooklyn D'Lo, where he was probably scoring 15 to 20 points a game or something like that. Um, when you get if he's able to show what his offense is, that'll and he can show that he is where these outlier games are showing him to be around, like I said, a 15 to 20 point a game scorer, and he can contribute both offensively and defensively, then like I said, next year he'll be a middle round draft pick, a middle of the first round draft pick. I don't think you spend any higher than that on him realistically, unless he has a crazy sophomore year and he just puts himself in a league that the rest of these prospects aren't. But time will tell. Another one of his routes is he can go to the G League. A lot of guys are doing that. I don't think that's the right way for him to go. I think that's a route for a guy that's trying to make money and doesn't have the financial stability that, a lot of young guys have at this point in their life from when they're coming from I don't want to say you know tough situations. When you're not the son of multi-billion-dollar superstar athlete and you're the son of hardworking, works two jobs, 5 to 7 days a week, single mother. It's a very different scenario, and the G League does help a lot of those guys out because it allows them to get in and be in a professional setting without, I guess, without the professional with the professional attention, so to speak. Um, while also getting your finances in order. But I don't think that's the route for Bronny because Bronny falls into the latter, the former, the former situation where he's son of multi-billion-dollar athlete, and he has the resources to kind of get himself right. So I think another year in college is his best bet. Um, and wherever he is, I think he just has to find a spot where he's able to run the offense and be the decision maker in the offense because there are a lot of plays of him where he's making those LeBron like decisions. I hate to say that, but it's true. And it's a comparison that's inevitable. Uh, he was, I don't want to say doomed from birth, but it was written in stone. Like it was gonna happen. It's gonna happen no matter what. Your legal name is LeBron James Jr. There's no way you're gonna get away from that and run from that. You just have to embrace it, and he has to be able to make it his own, make his own legacy out of it, which is hard to do because LeBron has cemented a strong legacy of his own, but Bronny's just got to be able to take a step off of that and branch out and make his own legacy. Um, and I don't know if he does it. From what we've seen of him so far, it's unclear, but I think we're all rooting for him, or most people are rooting for him. But yeah, just stay in school another year. Take your time. And with that, really, I think that'll do it. This is weird to me. I'm used to this being a longer thing, but I kind of like this. Um, like I said, yeah, that's the end of my notes. That's the end of what I gotta say. And with that, I'm out of here. Make sure to like, comment if you want to talk to me about sports at all. I'll post. I'll put a pinned comment with where you can find my socials. Also, what else do you do in these things? Subscribe. That's probably the most important thing. I think it makes a real cool effect. I don't know if they still do that. Other than that, yeah, we'll catch you next week.